course, on relationalism. And relationalism is what we might think of as a package of scientific ontologies, a way of conceptualizing the kinds of subjects that we study in the world, not as being made up of discrete objects that have individual attributes connected to them, the way we sometimes think about, say, the GDP of a state or something like that, or the number of military forces that a state has. Instead, if we were to think relationally, what we're really interested in here are cross-cutting flows and processes out of which individual units and individual entities arise. And that starts to sound kind of abstract, if you sort of think about it just on that level. If we think about it a little bit more concretely, think about the state as not being a material object. Think about the state as being an ongoing set of political, social, and economic processes of drawing and redrawing the boundary, which then gives rise to the idea that there's such a thing as the state, which can then go out and act as if it was a big person. So a relational sensibility or a relational analytic, relational approach starts not with preformed objects. It starts with this background flow of transactions and social interconnections out of which entities congeal. And that is a different way of thinking about social life than the models that we're often presented with, which are not relational, but the opposite of relational, which is substantialist. Over the course of the week, we'll look at these three different analytical languages that people have developed for talking about these flows and transactions. So we'll talk a little bit about network approaches, we'll talk about discourse approaches, and we'll talk about practice theory as three different ways that people have tried to conceptualize what it means to start with relations rather than with things in the course of doing one's theorizing. So what we will do in the class itself is we will read some of the important theoretical statements about how relational approaches work. We'll read some research conducted in a relational mode, drawn mostly from international studies, but also from sociology and a little bit from anthropology, to get a sense of what relational research looks like applied to very different kinds of concrete empirical questions. And we'll end the course by thinking a little bit about the distinctive quality of a relational explanation versus explanations that really proceed by aggregating the attributes of individual objects or actors or states or persons or whatever you want.